In an ideal world, this would all be in the field and would have bees roaring out of it. In the real world, it just sits here waiting for better days.
I know of a beekeeper who pollinates blueberries. He had 250 hives last fall. This spring, he's down to 14.
Well, colony collapse disorder is very interesting because everybody's talking about it, but nobody knows what it is.
And why are we losing all these bees? That's the million-dollar question.
Suddenly, the worker bee population's essentially gone. A lot of baby bees or brood, queen wandering around looking confused, and plenty of food stores. And then the question becomes, well, what was it?
And so far, research has not been able to provide us with an answer.
And so it's a mystery.
Ohio beekeepers didn't need another challenge.
A beekeeper enters the winter as a pessimist. You start out with the idea, I just wonder how many of my bees are going to be alive next spring.
I was managing 80 hives here, and I had 27 that survived the winter.
Inside of a hive during the winter, the bees form a cluster.
They form a tight ball inside the colony and still maintain the central part of that cluster at about 93 degrees Fahrenheit. They have to maintain that warm temperature and consume the honey, which is their energy source, to make it through the winter.
In winter kill, they die as an organism. They die as a unit. These bees sat here and they idled as long as they had fuel. And then when it became so cold for so long, as a group, they died together.
Honeybees need at least 60 to 90 pounds of honey in the hive to survive the winter. If a beekeeper takes that honey away from them, they've condemned those bees to death.
Honey is a wonderful byproduct of beekeeping, but the number one importance of honeybees is pollination.
In apple orchards, bees are extremely important for pollination. We can't get an apple crop if we don't have pollinators of some kind. And honeybees really do a lot of the work for us.
They're responsible for every third bite that we eat.
Everything that's not corn, wheat, and soybeans needs some kind of bee to do pollination work.
To protect these prodigious pollinators, researchers are exploring ways to strengthen the hive. One option stands out.
Genetics.
Almost like providing a pedigree for a honeybee.
We're looking at which individuals are surviving under what conditions, and so I'm looking for those bees that exhibit good, positive genetics that are able to adapt to their environment and perform well.
When you have 10 or 20% that live through it, they've lived through the weather, they've lived through our maybe management and mismanagement, they've lived through a lot of different things. Those are the bees we want to deal with. Those are the champions.
It all starts with the queen.
The hive is her prodigy. She lays a lot of eggs. Maybe she can lay 2,500 a day. And if you do the math, in 10 days, that would be 25,000 bees. And if you have a very productive queen, you have a lot of foragers leaving the hive to bring in honey, so they can gather a larger honey crop.
If you think about it, the queen contains all the genetics that influence the survivability and the productivity of that colony. So one individual is influencing all the characteristics of that colony by producing her offspring.
Queen's made in the air. So whatever successful drone is out there that is able to mate with the queen will mate with her. You have no control over that. And so the only way you can control the genetics is through artificial insemination.
It's no different than a large animal. We collect the sperm from the drones, and then we use that sperm to inseminate the queens. So the work that I do is actually transmitted to the commercial beekeepers around the United States by shipping them breeder queens. I want strong, healthy, thriving colonies, and that's how I gauge my success.
Joe Latshaw and a handful of private researchers are making good progress. But in the midst of this crisis, financially strapped states have cut funding for bee research and county inspection programs.
I think the answer is your local bee clubs. Your local bee clubs can reach out to their beekeepers in their area and start educational programs. The beekeepers need information, and they need it because they're desperate.
The Central Ohio Beekeepers Association maintains a bee yard at The Ohio State University.
We're giving bee schools every year. We're continuing to work in this bee yard with bee classes throughout the entire summer for both our beginning beekeepers and our more advanced beekeepers.
I've always been interested in bees, and one day I saw an article in the paper 2 years ago on beekeeping, and Dana was giving a class, and I started taking his classes, and it's just exciting. It's just so much to learn from bees, and I wanted to do it to put everything back into our environment because we were losing our bees.
Nina was scared to death of bees when I first met her.
They beat me up pretty badly. But every time I got stung, it was my fault. I'm very heavy-handed, so I have to learn to be gentle.
Today, Nina has 2 flourishing hives in the backyard of her home in the city.
We have a new group of beekeepers coming in. I call them environmental beekeepers. They're very concerned about what's happening around them. And these people may not be big commercial beekeepers. They're not interested in making money or making honey. All they're interested in is saving the bees. And Nina kind of falls into that category.
I get a lot of satisfaction from it. It's interesting as a beginner to watch something develop and watch it grow and just to watch how they work socially. So now I'm a beekeeper and I'm just watching my bees, and I should be getting some honey this year. So it's exciting. It's a good thing for the environment. We don't want to lose our bees.